This episode, we're talking about diversifying mages. There's an update for Cassiopeia, and we've got a new spell-slinging Sandman, Azir. Welcome to Patch Rundown 416. Hey guys, Miss Pudding here to walk you through the updates in the Shurima patch. Today we'll be talking about mages and giving each one a more unique identity in terms of gameplay and strategy. Click on the links here if you want to skip ahead. First up is Azir, a sand mage who summons soldiers and revives turrets for amazing zone control. The upcoming champion spotlight will have the full details and show off his auto attack based playstyle. Next up is Cassiopeia, with a gameplay and visual update to make her more new hotness and less old and busted. In terms of gameplay, we're shifting her to more of a late game hyper-scaling carry with a completely new passive that gives her permanent bonuses as she poisons things. We've got a few notable non-mage changes as well. Ascension is the new featured game mode where you can become Ascended and take out your opponents with a buff from the big boss Xerath in the center of the map. Renekton has a shiny new texture update, and we're giving Vayne, Poppy, and Gnar more opportunities to bash enemies into player-made terrain. Keep an eye out for Jarvan's Cataclysm, Anivia's Wall, Trundle's Pillar, and Azir's Ultimate. All right, that's it. Check out the patch notes for the full details. Today we're going to have a very design-focused discussion about mages, so I'm joined by three designers. Scarizard from Live Gameplay with a banana stash, Xenon from Champion Team, and Scruffy from Champion Updates.
Hi there.
Why, hello.
Hey. We got some of the worst designers
Sorry,
available.
the banana stash really threw me off for a moment.
Yeah.
So let's start off with Azir, new champion with this patch. Tell us a little bit about him. What inspired this champion concept?
Right, so Azir, the Emperor of the Sands, is an archetype that basically we've wanted in the game for the longest time. He's the Sand Mage. Like, if we only ever do one Sand Mage in League of Legends, this is what we think he should be. More specifically, he raises soldiers out of the sand and commands them around. And so we had a lot of kits for him. We've been working on him for a very, very long time. And it took us a while to actually get to the point where we knew what would be cool about him. He should really feel like he's the Emperor. And I think that's one of the things that we, in this version of Azir, and we'll talk about that in a second, we nailed very early. We nailed him being a glorious man-bird, or birdman. Yeah, exactly like that. And the other one is that feeling of being the Emperor and like telling your dudes, go there, stab that guy, stab that guy. That was supposed to be the VO, stab that guy, but then they
Really?
the order is given. Yeah.
Sick him.
Yeah.
So why did it take so long to make Azir?
Yeah, it did actually take us a while, and this is not abnormal. We very often have things where like, you know what, that's a great concept. We really want to make this guy, maybe not this kid. So this happened a bunch of times for him. We actually started work on him back when Ari released. That's when we started jamming on.
So over 2 years ago.
So years.
2011.
So we had lots of kids, and we could have released any of them. They weren't bad kids by any means, but they would have been just another mage, basically. We had a kit that was literally like, here's a bunch of AoE, here's a skill shot, if you hit it, you get CC. And it's like, oh, I think I saw this show before.
We wouldn't have been super excited to release it, so we just said, let's let him cool off for a little while, let's shelve him, and we'll come back.
Yeah.
Actually, this is the first time we've done anything like this for a new character where the whole team, you know, usually everyone's working on their own characters and they get a little help from everyone else, but it's kind of individual projects. This time we took the whole team and everyone got together for 3 days, just nonstop Azir mode all the time, and we made like four or five different Azirs. We all split up into teams, and we had just had the wildest play test where we put every Azir in simultaneously, and we were looking for like what can this guy be? What amazing things can he do for the game?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the thing that Azir is supposed to be really good at then?
Right. So Azir is very uniquely strong at zone control and objective control.
And building a turret.
And
Yeah, and he gets to make a turret. Who does that?
You can't just be like, oh, he's really good at all this other stuff. It's like, oh, builds a turret.
And they're not just turrets that are unique to him. I mean, they're actually just as strong as the outer turrets that exist already.
They're a little bit stronger actually.
Yeah, you can put him in the enemy's side of the base too,
Whoa.
which is pretty insane. But to follow up a little bit here, and I'll let you take this from me in a sec, because you guys over in Champ Up have been working on this for quite a long time. But when you think about mages in our game, I think Twisted Fate is one of my favorite examples. Orianna as well. These are mages that kind of appear randomly throughout the course of a competitive season and almost for no reason at all, right? Like sometimes it'll be like, oh, a champion was buffed and we'll see them played, right? But TF and Orianna are very much like, what does the environment look like? What are they being played against? I really want the global pressure of Twisted Fate kind of play more of a support role for my other champions to really hard carry rate, has a stun, very low cooldown, very powerful. So champions that have really unique things about them instead of just like, oh, they're very strong, right?
Yeah.
Basically, I think what we're getting at here is Azir had to kind of pass this trial of like, is he going to be unique enough? Are you going to be able to think, does he bring something to the game that no one else brings? And in fact, right, I mean, he builds a turret out of the ground. And we even had Snoopy playtest him.
We had Snoopy in the office the other day. He just looked at the cage, he's like, oh, that's cool, that's interesting. And I show him my passive, and he just looks at me, he goes like, you're breaking the game, Decline.
Which is both scary, but also kind of the sign you're doing things right.
Yeah.
When everyone's like, oh, okay, all right, I'm seeing the kit, and then there's the thing where they're like, no. But so
the best part.
Yeah. And I'm sure as the person working on it, you've to no end happy, but
that's what makes him really unique. And
yeah.
I would want to pick him so that I could build team comps around
right, exactly. And so part of me kind of coming back around to it and thinking, if you look at our champion design over the last year and a half, right? Like Thresh Lantern, Windwall, even Nars, the idea that he can't really control his ultimate, right? That he's very contextual on how you play him, is we really want to be pushing our champion designs to the outer limits. We really want to be bringing in kind of the craziest things. And so when we look at Azir, right, an Emperor who creates soldiers and armies out of sand, it's like, well, if we were ever going to make a turret in League of Legends, which I think is something we thought and think we want to do, this is going to be the guy to do it. And so, as with all things, like we'll have to nerf it if it's strong, we'll have to buff it if it's weak, but I think we're really fully behind supporting this level of crazy for Azir, because it's really what's going to set him apart.
This is a thing that we try to do for all champions. We try to do this for new champions, but also for existing champions. We try to find one thing that makes them unique.
So how do we do that with an existing champion?
I mean, it can vary case to case, right? And sometimes you have characters that are like, 70% of the way there and they already have a strong aspect and we just need to go farther with it. Like looking at Cassiopeia, who's also in this patch, right? It did take a little bit of thinking and a little bit of new additions to the kit, but she actually as a character was totally built and set up to be this perfect, like late game hyper carry mage. In her case, we looked at the character and we said, well, what is something that she's like sort of she does already that's cool, or she's like in a good position to really amp up and make it her awesome thing, right? And so she's already got this really great kit where she's doing all this sustained damage. She's pretty immobile, and we're like, this is the perfect candidate for the ultimate like hyper scaling mage carry. I'm 40 minutes into the game and I'm just gonna carry my whole team because I'm at tier 3 of my passive and I've got 2 death caps.
She gets a little mobile though. She has the move speed on the Q. She actually ant a little bit, but part of the reason that I really support the Cassie movement is, first off, right, we're talking about turning that aspect of her up to 11, right? Letting her be kind of the Vayne and Kog'Maw mages, right? Like be that hyper carry. But also the way in which she plays her game is something that you can actually play against a little bit. I think Nasus is an example of champions that some players really love. And he's pretty fun to play, he's a pretty easy champion to learn on, right? And there's a lot of nuance to how you optimize your kind of stat game. That there comes a point in the game where, I've killed this guy like 6 times.
He's just unstoppable.
Yeah, it's like his stat count is too big and he has like no bounty on his head. And he just kind of like bops you super hard and you're like, oh God, I can't fight this, right? Where Cassiopeia now builds up by applying poison onto champions, killing units with Twin Fang and just really spreading the poison around. So if I'm in a lane against you as Cassiopeia and I'm like dodging your poisons and stuff like that, I'm actually kind of inhibiting your growth in a way that makes me feel like if you hit that maximum stat count and you get like the free Rabadons or whatever it is that you get, I'm like, okay, well, she really deserved that. Like that's actually someone who worked for it and achieved this goal.
Right, because every second that she's poisoned an enemy champion,
it's not just an inevitable conclusion, which is why for this, I feel like it feels really unique. There's something for each game you go in as Cassie. You're like, I need to hit this mark. This is where I want to go.
The reason that pattern is actually really cool to play against is because you do the thing that you already want to do, which is like not stand in the poison.
Yeah.
That is already the best thing to do.
I'm like, oh, I'm smart. I'm so smart. Look at me not getting hit by
So like
poison.
when you pick Cass though to build a team comp, and with this rework, the bonuses that she's getting are all passive. You know, they're just something that's like, oh yeah, she just has a lot more stats now.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't really change necessarily how she plays or like what she was purposed for.
Well, I guess if you were trying to build a team around a character like this, you taking into consideration a few things, right? She is, you know, needs to get to that late game potential to really win the game, right? That's the strategy you're building into. So you're going to play more defensive. Your jungler is maybe going to pay some more attention to like helping her have a safer or more protected lane phase. And then the other thing that's
Protect
kind
the
of
Cass comp.
yeah, exactly. And she's not like, she doesn't have like dashes or blinks. So in team fights, you're going to also want to protect her.
Yeah.
So there's an interesting distinction here. There's two aspects to making a champion unique. A champion can feel unique to play, something that in design we call unique inputs, or a champion can have a unique effect on the game, on the way that everybody else plays the game, which again we call a unique output.
Right.
So which one are we actually aiming for more?
So I think Cassio was always, we can amp up both, but Cassio's always had the unique input.
Right,
With
she
the
already has
E-spam,
this,
right,
yes.
yeah. We can just amp that up. But she didn't really have a unique output. And now forcing people to think about the teams you want to build around her, against her, and maybe like if I'm a Lee Sin on the enemy team and there's a Cassio in mid lane, well, that's clearly where I have to go and gank now to shut her down so she never gets to those power points. That's a unique output.
Yeah. We can even pull this back a little bit and contextualize what Daniel said about the inputs outputs with Azir, right? Inputs are managing my soldiers and moving them around. Is, you know, Orianna's maybe a little similar in how you press the buttons, right? But I'm thinking about so many different things, and
You
it's very
right click as well. That's very different.
Right. You also auto attack. It replaces your auto attack. But like an idea of the output, right, would be something like that turret, right? Is like for the person not playing Azir, how is my game going to change when I see Azir? Is like, oh, we're fighting mid lane, and then like the obelisk rises, and you're like, whoa, that's crazy, right? And we kind of want those moments for every champion. But I think players will tell you, and they kind of feel a little intuitively, that mages really high on the input moments of the like, oh, I'm shooting my splitting geometry blast, or I'm doing all those things. But when it comes to their effect on the game, probably a little bit lacking. I think that's something we're looking to change very soon.
What champions do you think are kind of falling short on that right now?
I mean, there are lots, and it doesn't make them, you know, bad characters or characters we don't like or characters that we wouldn't want to see in the game. But it's just looking forward, we're saying, oh, how can we take every character when we're trying to update more characters? How can we take all these characters, find their sort of awesome thing that they do that's different than the other characters in League of Legends, and you know, really amp that up, or really like let them own it, or you know, stuff like that. And so like when we looked at, you know, Lucian pretty recently, we said, well, it kind of does everything pretty well. And so that even though it's like it's awesome to be OP in that way, these guys are fist bumping over it. But it actually results in him either being too good or just not competitive. Right. And so we're like, what can we do to make him like really his own thing? And so he's like the guy that like dashes around more than any other AD carry. He's super mobile. He's super spell slingy. Right, and I think in the end it resulted in a much better character. I mean, in every champion in League of Legends, we would like to be able to say, and you can say this, I would say for most characters, but it's at different degrees. Yeah. We wanted to say this character does something that no one else does in the game, right? And this is why you pick them, or why you don't pick them. I mean, the reason why this diversity is good for the game, I mean, there's a few things. One, it actually like every game you play feels more different, and it's exciting, right? I'm always looking forward to playing my next game if I know it's not going to be like my last one.
Thanks, guys. That's all we have for today. If you have any questions for our next episode, click on the link below and leave us a comment. Thanks for watching Patch Rundown 416.